Foundation's mantra is fourfold: a prostate healthy diet, a stress management program that works for you, as much exercise as you can healthfully tolerate, if you will. And the fourth one is a zest for life, or where the glass is half full rather than half empty. You know all of that. We always try to, well, I always try to think in terms, other than prostate cancer, that I can really do for myself to fortify my immune system and live a longer life. I just had my 80th birthday and I was diagnosed with prostate cancer at 50. So that's 30 years that I really kind of didn't expect to have. I think it was about 15 years ago that I first started hearing about cannabis and its positive effect on prostate cancer. And the original literature I was getting, guys were sending me stuff done at the University of Lisbon in Portugal. And it indicated that some strains or cultivars of cannabis seem to really be stalling prostate cancer in their tracks. So that was the hope. There wasn't a lot of research behind that, but it sure prompted my interest because I've been an on and off casual user, if you will, of cannabis products since the 60s. And boy, it's come a long way. Who would have ever thought that there really is some value besides just getting high? So, so many interesting guys have crossed through the Prostate Awareness Foundation over the years, and Leonard Leinow is one of them. And Leonard is one of us. He's got prostate cancer, which he'll tell you about. And he's written a very definitive book on, it's called CBD, The Patient's Guide to Medicinal Cancer. And I really like the tagline. It says,
Medicinal cannabis,
medicinal cannabis. What did I say?
cancer.
Oh, boy.
Medicinal cancer.
Medicinal cancer. Okay, good. Way to go, Ken. So, A Patient's Guide to Medicinal Cannabis. I really like the tagline, which is healing without the high. And that's the concern of a lot of guys around the United States and a lot of people, because the simple fact is it's still a federal offense to use cannabis, not in all states. But with that said, I want to introduce Leonard Leinow, who's been here before. John Bohan, I want to thank you for working with Leonard and putting together what I think is just a really terrific presentation. So without further ado, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay, so Leonard, you need to ask for the share. And
Okay, I
Ken,
was under the impression we were gonna do this at 6 o'clock. We're doing it now?
Yeah, because I don't have any, well, I mean, can we? If you don't want to do it now, we can.
No, I'll do it. I don't care. I was just, you told me we were gonna have the meeting and then I was gonna do it, but
Well, a lot of times we have new guys that sometimes we wind up devoting the whole meeting to. There's no new faces here. I can talk about some other things that are on our agenda if you don't want to get started.
no,
Just
no, I don't have a want or not want. I just want to understand.
okay. So why don't you go ahead and do your thing? Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna pour myself some water.
wait, Leonard has to request a share. Leonard, you have to request the share from Ken. Ken's the host.
I'm sending a request.
And Ken, you'll get a request and you have to authorize it.
Done.
Okay,
I like your background.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's a nice
very
one.
nice.
Thank you. I wish I knew where it was.
You mean it's not real?
It's real somewhere. I
It's
just don't know where.
I think you just turn around and throw a line in there and see if you catch some.
So I'm having a little problem here. So I need a minute to,
Well, while we do that, I've got a couple of announcements I'd like to make, okay? UC Med Center, Department of Prostate Urology, is having their 5th annual, symposium, if you will. It's free. It's on, Friday, May 2nd, from 8:30 to 5 o'clock. A lot of you guys go to UC Med Center. All the big wheels in prostate health at UC Med Center anyway are going to be there, including Peter Carroll, Matthew Cooperberg. You guys know a lot of these names, David O, Eric Small. So I'm going to be watching that. You can go on ucmedcenter.org and ask to be part of that program. Again, it's free, but I think you do have to register. So again, that's on Friday, May 2nd at 8:30 to 5. And I'll review that next month. And our next month's meeting is Wednesday, May 21st. You might want to make a note of that right now. And Leonard, are you about ready to go?
yeah,
Okay. Go for it, mate.
okay. Last year, I found out that I had prostate cancer, and I found this KINS group up in Santa Rosa, and somehow these guys convinced me to go skydiving. And so here's my experience skydiving.
Oh,
I'm flying in.
10,000 feet above Cloverdale.
Yeah, Cloverdale, right. So I've been in the cannabis business for 17 years now as a professional, and I wrote a book about 7 years ago called CBD. The title of the book is CBD, A Patient's Guide to Medicinal Cannabis Healing Without the High. And they liked the book a lot, and they ended up printing it in 8 different languages. And so since then, over 60,000 copies have sold worldwide in 8 languages, and these are the languages that it's available in. So that was a pretty successful project that we did. I did not know it would take off. We hit the market right at the right time. CBD was just becoming known. It was just becoming popular, and nobody knew much about it. And I came out with this book, which is a really fantastic book. It's I don't know how many. I don't have a copy on my desk here right now, but it's about 250 pages, and it's all about the medicinal use, and it shows the different different conditions that it works with, and how to use it, how to titrate up, and all the different cannabinoids, and a little bit of the history of it and stuff like that. We're going to go into a lot of that here. I went to UCLA in the 60s in engineering, and I graduated in 1965. So in my senior year, I got introduced to cannabis, and I got that year I had the best grades of any year that I had in school, and I never went to class. I just showed up for the test, and my intuition was wide open. And after the 60s, I somehow managed to not go to Vietnam in the war. I failed my draft physical, and I ended up going to India. And wanted to stay in India forever, but I stayed there for 5 years. I was practicing meditation and getting into that whole lifestyle and spiritual lifestyle. And then in the 80s, I moved to Oregon and I lived on a commune where I raised my family. So here's a picture of the commune. And it's me on the right side. And Robert Friedland is the second to the left. He went to school with Steve Jobs at Reed College. And Steve Jobs came to this farm. It was an apple farm, so an apple orchard, basically. And he was there visiting, and he's walking around thinking, Apple, that'd be a good name for a computer. And he named his computer company
Wow,
after
that's
that.
amazing.
Let's see, then I moved to Marin, where I live now. I live in Woodacre, West Marin. And one of my nicknames is the Wizard of Woodacre. One of my clients gave me that name after getting cured from her cancer, astrocytoma, brain tumor. She was supposed to live 6 months, and that was 13 years ago. She's still doing great. So I started my company called Synergy Wellness in 2008, and it's as a California medical collective, cannabis collective, where you need a doctor's recommendation, and we can sell THC products inside of California. We're not allowed to, technically, we're not allowed to, not supposed to, I should say, ship them to other states. But if somebody, needs it somewhere, we'll figure out a way to help them out. But legally, we can only sell in California with THC. THC, we make suppositories, salves, concentrates, capsules. We make some edibles, we make gummies and cookies. And we treat pain, stress, inflammation, cancer, dementia, sleep, anxiety, all of these conditions. I'll get into that more later. And in 2014, I started a second company called Healing Essence. And Healing Essence is a CBD company, and it can ship to all 50 states. So that's why I have two companies. Hemp versus marijuana. Hemp is they're all cannabis. Hemp, marijuana, indica, sativa, they're all types of cannabis. Hemp is less than 0.3% THC. If it's over 1% THC, it's called marijuana. They were referring to the plant, of the flower, when they came up with that ruling. But that ruling has stuck to all products. So a tincture, if it's less than 0.3%, it can qualify as hemp, which means it can be shipped other places. So growing cannabis for the flower, we like to grow big plants, get the flowers as big as possible. And putting a microscope on the flower, you see the trichomes. That's what each one of these little white ball with a stem, it's called a trichome. So they're cannabinoids. And it could be CBD, it could be THC, could be any of the cannabinoids. There's actually 122 cannabinoids that we've identified now. And cannabis plant also has terpenes. The terpenes are primarily the odor and the smells, but they also have medicinal properties. And this chart outlines some of the medicinal properties of the terpenes. I would say that 80% of the medicinal property is the cannabinoids, and 20% is the result of the terpenes. The terpenes will define a particular plant or product as being indica or sativa. The THC level might be the same, but the terpenes will be different. So sativas are very uplifting, so it'll have pine or pinene and limonene and some of these, nasal type smells are sativas. They're very uplifting. The indicas are more floral type smells. The purples, they just have a sweet kind of fruity smell to them. And sativas are stimulating. Indicas are relaxing and calming. So I think of them as sativas are daytime and indicas are nighttime. I used to love sativas. They're great for creativity, but I have a little bit of a heart issue, and sativas will actually stimulate my heart and make it beat faster. So I've become more of an indica lover these days. How does cannabis work in the body with CBD? CBD I used to mean all cannabinoids, THC included. So Raphael Mechoulam, an Israeli scientist in the early 70s, wanted to figure out what was going on with cannabis. And so he identified THC and identified CBD. He didn't invent it, but he isolated it and was seeing how it worked with people and trying to figure out what it was actually doing in the body. It was in 1992 that he created, or didn't create, he identified the endocannabinoid system, the ECS, endocannabinoid system, that every body, every mammal has in their body an endocannabinoid system. And the picture on the right here shows the receptor sites where the reactive sites, where there's like a gate that opens up when you take CBD or THC or any cannabinoid, and it allows some energy to flow through it. So these are like neurotransmitters. The endocannabinoid system is made up of neurotransmitters that sends messages throughout the body, and it's wired kind of like the nervous system where you've seen nerves going throughout the body. Well, it's not showing the individual pathways, which look like wires, but it's showing the receptor sites here. And so Raphael Mechoulam came up with this endocannabinoid system that we all have. Everybody has this. Every animal has this. And you may not know you have it, but it's kind of an overarching system that controls all the other organs and all the other systems in the body. So what we're going for is a well-balanced endocannabinoid system. And then when that system is balanced, then all the other systems in the body are working optimally. So Raphael Mechoulam named the energy that flows through the system when the gate is opened up, he named it anandamide. And one of his fellow Israeli scientists, he says, Raphael, you're Jewish, you're Hebrew. You had to come up with a word and you couldn't find a Hebrew word. You had to go and get a Sanskrit word to describe the flow of energy. And he says, well, in Hebrew, we don't have many words for joy or happiness. We have a lot of words for pain and suffering and angst and anxiety, but for pleasure and joy, yeah, I went to Sanskrit and chose the word Ananda, which means bliss, and named it Anandamide. And I thought that was a cute story. CBD has a lot of medicinal properties. It does a lot in the body. So I think years ago, most of the natural cannabis plants had lots of CBD in them. But one of the properties of CBD is it's anti-psychoactive. So it actually limits the psychoactivity that THC might create. And so when the breeders of Northern California wanted to make the strongest recreational THC pot plants that they could make, they did it by breeding out the CBD. So over the years of the 80s and 90s, they bred out the CBD and they bred up the THC. And I've seen products that are as high as 45% THC in them now. But other cannabinoids do have medicinal properties. Out of the 122 cannabinoids that they found so far, we only know what 6 of them do, or maybe 7. Let's list 7 of them here: CBDV, THCA, CBDA, CBG, THCV, and CBC. So the A stands for acid, in case you don't know. CBD and CBDA, and THC and THCA. When it grows in the plant, it's in the acid form. And when you heat it, that knocks off the acid molecules. So THCA, which is not psychoactive, becomes psychoactive. It becomes THCA becomes THC. So that's what the A stands for. We use a lot of CBD, THC, CBG, and CBN, which is not on this chart. I just noticed. This is a list of all the things that CBD helps. And I understand they're going to somehow make this PowerPoint available through Ken's website later on, so you don't have to write these all down. You can access it later, or you can email me and I'll answer any of your questions. We're going to focus on cancer because cancer is one of the conditions that cannabis does help. So talking about cancer in general, breast cancer is the most common type of cancer in women. 32% of their cancers are breast cancer. And in men, prostate cancer is the most common type of cancer. 29% of the cancer cases in men are prostate cancer. Now, everybody has cancer, some cancer in their body, but they don't have enough of it to have a condition called cancer. But everybody has some cancer, so it's not unusual. And evidently, 1 million new cases every year are popping up. So I'm just going to get all these up here to start with. You can take cannabis for several reasons. You can take it to prevent cancer from coming as a prophylactic. You can take it integratively along with traditional treatment. This is what most people will do. So you might go to you find out you have cancer, you go to an oncologist, you got to do operation if you can, or chemo, and radiation or ADT therapy, whatever they recommend. And then you might do cannabis along with it integratively together to help with the pain, to help you sleep, to help with your, the side effects of chemo and radiation, to stimulate your appetite, help you with anxiety. It's good for palliative care. So there's a lot of uses for cannabis that oncologists will say, yeah, you can use that along with our traditional treatment. But they get very upset when you tell them you're going to use cannabis instead of their traditional treatment. They don't want you doing something you can grow in your backyard and put them out of business. They're a little touchy about that. So very few oncologists will actually admit that cannabis can get rid of cancer. But in my opinion, you can do an alternative treatment and use cannabis to get rid of cancer. And that's what I'm doing. I'm taking this opportunity. I'll get into me more about me later, but you can use THC to dissolve tumors or shrink tumors, cancer tumors, and CBD stops the propagation of cancer cells, and it gets rid of apoptosis, or it promotes apoptosis to get rid of old cancer cells. And CBD and THC will prevent cancer from returning. To treat cancer with THC, it requires very large doses. And it travels through the lymphatic system. That's my opinion. A very prominent UCSF oncologist that I work with, his name is Nicholas Butowski. He's a brain surgeon. One of his clients stated that he said that of all of his patients, the ones that live the longest after their treatment or after their diagnosis, they are all using cannabis for maintenance. I'm going to repeat that because I think it's really important. All of his longest living survivors after treatment, all of them are using cannabis for maintenance, all the longest living ones. The ones who say, oh, I'm not going to do cannabis, they live for 6 months, maybe a year. The ones that glioblastoma always comes back. They can go in and take it out. They can radiate it and treat it with chemotherapy, but it has a habit of always returning, unless you're using cannabis, and then it doesn't return.
Excuse me, Leonard, I'm not sure. Can you define glioblastoma?
Glioblastoma is a brain cancer. There's 2 brain cancers that I know of, glioblastoma and astrocytoma.
Okay.
And so they are cancer that is in the brain, and the tumor grows in the brain. I think, and I'm not positive, astrocytoma means you have a lot of small little tumors spread out like stars, astro, and geo is like one big one.
Can I add a footnote to that? I went to a conference specifically on the medicinal value of cancer. I was going to a number of conferences like that over the last 20 years. And I found out, and correct me if I'm wrong, because maybe there's some newer information, but of all those cannabinoid receptor sites in the body, it seems like the majority of them are in the brain. The last I had heard, there were 22 different cannabinoid receptor sites in the brain alone. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I showed that in that last picture that showed the different dots on the body. You want me to go back to that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, wait a minute. Let's see, how am I going to do that?
Not to worry, Leonard.
Wait. Here we go.
Yeah,
You can see up in the brain, it's a whole lot up in the brain. Hold on, these are receptor sites.
right.
Up in the brain is the majority of them. And then in the gut, in the colon, intestines, there's a lot there, and along the spine, along the spinal column. That's where most of the receptor sites are.
Excellent. Thank you.
Now, to get back to where I was, I can go cancer. There we go. So, yeah, then I'm going into my journey here. So it's my theory. Anyhow, just to go back to this, UCSF, Dr. Butowski is one of the few doctors that I've run into who's really open to cannabis. And he did a research study, a clinical trial using CBD by itself. And I think it wasn't all that successful because he never published his findings. But my experience is you got to use CBD and THC together to get a good result. And when I make a suppository, which I'll go into in a minute, we use 4 different cannabinoids. So 18 months ago, I discovered a nodule on my prostate. That's a small bump that could be felt in a digital exam. And somehow they convinced me to do a biopsy. And they drilled 14 core samples. And these were the results I had. 4 of the 14 had pretty high grade cancer. The grade is very high. Gleason 8 on 1, Gleason 7 on 3 sites. Decipher of 0.84. And to top it off, it's on both sides of my tumor, of my prostate. The tumor is on both sides of the prostate. They call it a bilateral tumor, which is not good news. And the grade is T2C, and my PSA was 4.7 at that time. We then did a PET scan, and we found out that it has not spread. It's all contained within the prostate. It's active. There's no metastasis, and it's not in the lymph glands. So I was at Kaiser at the time, and they recommended radiation coupled with ADT therapy. You guys know what ADT therapy is, I'm sure. That's hormone elimination therapy.
Castration.
Testosterone elimination. I've heard not very good things about that. So
It
I
isn't
didn't want to
good.
do that. And I left Kaiser and I got into UCSF and met up with Dr. Carroll, Peter Carroll. And after meeting with, what was that guy's name? The radiation specialist.
Mac Roach.
Yeah, Max. I decided that I was going to not do what they were recommending, and I was going to do active surveillance, that we would just watch it. And every quarter, I'm getting either a PET scan or an MRI scan or an ultrasound or some kind of a scan. So we're actively watching this. And then I'm treating it with my own protocol. And when I tell Peter Carroll that this is what I'm doing, he sort of rolls his eyes and doesn't believe that any of this is going to work. And he's pretty firm on I'm proving me wrong, but I'm doing this anyhow. I'll tell you more about it. So after 18 months, there is no growth, no metastasis. The tumor, in his words, is stable. But when you look at the ultrasound and you actually look at the measurements, the size of my prostate shrunk 11%. Not a lot, but it's not getting bigger. It's getting smaller.
Do you remember the size of your prostate, Leonard?
I'd have to look it up. I can't remember exactly. It wasn't huge, but I don't remember. I'll find out for you and email you that.
And with a 4.7 PSA, you wouldn't be real big. Probably in the 50s, 60s, 70s, maybe.
Yeah, it's not up that high. It's
No.
it's higher now. It's actually about 8 right now. But I don't put a whole lot of stock in PSA, meaning a whole lot other than, magnitude of 10 increase. That's significant. Something like that. It's an indicator. The PSA to me, it's like not a real reading. It's an indicator. Hey, something's going on. Check it out. So
Right.
Your PSA is 8 now?
yeah, somewhere around 8.
And
It's creeping up, but it's been 8 before. Well, years ago it went up to 8, and then somehow I got it to go back down to 2, and I don't even know what I did. It's like 10 years ago. But so like I said, I don't put a lot of stock in it, and I actually don't like to take a PSA test because you have to fast from sex for 72 hours, and that's pretty hard for me.
That's a long time, right?
Yeah. I think frequent sexual activity is good for the prostate and keeps the prostate healthy. That's my opinion. So I've in my clinic, I see a lot of people. I mean, I don't feel their prostate, but I'm ask them questions. I give them products and stuff like that. So I've had a lot of experience with working with prostate. So in my opinion, I mean, working with cancer, in my opinion, um, THC shrinks tumors, and like I said, CBD stops the growth of it. So, um, where was I going with that? Just because they could feel it, and but when I went to UCSF, I then went to see Donald Abrams. He's the head of the integrative medicine department, so he's more cannabis friendly. And he said, well, 80% of the men 80 years old have prostate in their cancer. So you're not like that unusual, And in my opinion, yeah, everybody's got some prostate, some cancer in there.
Age related.
Age related, definitely. But anyhow, I lost my train of thought. There was some point I was going to make. So I'm going to come back to my protocol here. Positive attitude is my number one. And I want to put an asterisk on that and emphasize it in bold. That is the biggest thing, part of my protocol is keeping a positive attitude. And I've done a lot of research on the cancer and discovered from different people that it's really a metabolic disorder of the mitochondria cell. And, so not so unusual, but it's something that we have to work with and manage. So attitude, energy, your belief system, your visualization, all of these are important. So I don't go around saying I have cancer. I mean, I don't believe it. I think I'm getting rid of it, and I think I have a metabolic disorder, and I'm managing it. So I've increased my exercise. I'm doing about 4 hours a week. It's not a lot, but it's aerobic and all of that. I'm doing these cannabis suppositories, which have 200 milligrams of CBD, 200 milligrams of THC, 100 milligrams of CBG, and 100 milligrams of CBN. Okay, why am I doing CBG and CBN? Because I've heard that they have anti-cancer properties. So why not put it in there since I'm making these myself and I can. So I'm throwing everything in there. So that's 600 milligrams of cannabinoids. That old formula of a gram a day that Rick Simpson came up with, he's talking about cannabis oil. So if your cannabis oil is 60% potency, it has 600 milligrams of cannabinoids in that 1 gram of oil. So I'm right about the same level that he was recommending. And I'm also, so just to come back to the suppositories, I do one at night when I go to bed. I don't find them psychoactive. I do not get high from them, but other people tell me that they do feel slightly altered, including my wife. She said that she felt it from a suppository. So some people feel it, some people don't. But when you take a suppository, it bypasses the liver. It bypasses the liver, but it travels throughout the body, not through the bloodstream, but it goes through the lymphatic system. So it will get to other parts of the body. It will treat cancer in the breast or the colon or brain cancer. It will treat it in other places, but it gets there through the lymphatic system. And I say that's my theory because I haven't seen that in literature anywhere. But when somebody has cancer somewhere specific, and then all of a sudden it starts to metastasize and move to other locations, it always first shows up in a lymph node, and then it shows up in another spot. So it's going through the lymph and then out to other places. So that's why I think it travels through the lymphatic system. I'm taking mushrooms. I'm taking AHCC, which is an extract that you can get online. MCP is modified citrus pectin. And turkey tail, a lot of you probably heard of that. Corealis mushroom, it's good anti-cancer properties. So this MCP, you might want to look that up, modified citrus pectin. I think what happens with that is that we all have cancer cells floating around. And if you do modified citrus pectin, it's like putting oil in to lubricate it, and the cancer cells don't stick together and bond. So they stay free floating and they don't bond and turn into a tumor. Anyhow, people have had good success with that. So I'm using it. I do saunas twice a week. I do a half-hour sauna. I do about 1.5 quarts or 2 quarts of water. So I'm really flushing out. It's kind of a detox flush that I do, and it helps my other medical conditions, which is my liver and my heart. So I think the sauna is good for all of those. Everything that I'm doing for my prostate is good for my heart and my liver and my overall conditions. My liver, I lived in India, I told you, back for 5 years in the late 60s, early 70s, and I picked up hepatitis C, one of the gifts from India. And I had it for 40 years without knowing it. So it was slowly eating away my liver. And then they discovered it. Then they discovered a drug to get rid of it called Harvoni, or they developed a drug to get rid of it. So I am now virus-free of hepatitis, but it left me with a compromised liver. So saunas will help that, and diet. My main, after positive attitude and cannabis suppositories, diet is the most important thing I'm doing. No sugars. No sugars, no things that turn into sugars like white flour and white rice, anything that converts easily to sugar. I can't say I've eliminated it 100%, but I'll cut it down. I'll read the label, and if it's got more than 5 grams of sugar, I won't take it. But I do seafood. And so I get protein that way. And I make a drink every day that has turmeric, ginger, grapefruit, and apple juice. So I'm juicing these things. So 1 ounce of turmeric, 1 ounce of ginger, 1 grapefruit, and 1 apple. That's the ratio that was given to me. I cut down the ginger a little bit because it's so strong, and increased the turmeric. But I take that every day, and I think it's helping a lot. I can give you the formula if you want it. I no longer go around thinking that I have cancer. I consider that I have a metabolic disorder that I'm managing successfully in a holistic way. So in 18 months, I got to say that I think it's looking pretty good. I thought it would have been gone. I thought my cancer would have been gone by now. And I asked one of my doctors about it, and not Peter Carroll, but another doctor, Dr. Chu. And she said, well, it's been growing for 20 years in your prostate. So it's a slow growing cancer. So to get rid of it holistically, it's going to be slow. It's not going to go away fast. So it comes on slow, it leaves slow. And that makes sense. So I got a ways to go with it. So Dr. Chu would give me a digital exam every time that she gave me an ultrasound. And she made a comment. She said, oh, it feels softer than it did last time. And it's a UCSF doctor saying it feels softer. So it goes with my theory that when you first find out you have it, or first to have it without treatment, it's hard like a rock. If you can feel it, if a breast cancer, you can feel it, a prostate, sometimes you can feel it, and it's hard like a rock. And then you start taking cannabis and it starts dissolving it. And after a while, it's soft like a grape. It still has its form, but it's not really shrinking like 1 centimeter, a half centimeter. It's 1 centimeter and hard. Now it's 1 centimeter and soft. And then after a while, they can't find it, digitally with their finger. It just dissolves. So cannabis doesn't shrink cancer, it dissolves cancer. It dissolves tumors. My theory, and I put it out there, I'm waiting for some doctor to agree with me or challenge me, but so far everyone just goes, yeah, that sounds about right. So some of the most common uses of cannabis, pain is by far the most common reason that somebody uses cannabis medicinally. I'm not talking about recreational use, I'm talking about medicinal use. So in my collective, 50% of our members have come to us for pain issues. So the old law in a collective is like they need a doctor recommendation saying, I think cannabis will be helpful. And all of our members have doctors' recommendations. THC is analgesic, so it's great for pain. Doesn't get rid of the pain altogether, but it gets rid of the majority of the pain so that you can manage it in a holistic way, like with meditation, like Vipassana type meditation, just observation. If it's a low level of pain, you can deal with it like that. CBD is anti-inflammatory, so it's also good for pain because a lot of pain issues come from inflammation where something is pressing on a nerve. So if you can get it to reduce the inflammation, you can reduce the pain. A 1-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC is our most common formula for pain. Sleep is another good use for cannabis, and we're finding CBN to be a very beneficial product, so we're adding that to a lot of our products. All of our products, personally, that we make are what we call full spectrum. So they're made right from the plant, and it's got all the different various cannabinoids in it. If it's made from isolate, then it's just THC or just CBD, and it doesn't have the full spectrum of the other cannabinoids. We found that full spectrum products are more effective. 95% of the people find that it's helping them with sleep. Other uses for cannabis, anxiety. And in today's world, I'm not going to get into politics, but I find that if I ever look at the news, which I try not to do, it produces anxiety. And CBD is very good for anxiety. THC is good for depression. It can lift your energy up. You have to be careful with THC. It's an amplifier. So if you're in a really bad mood and you take THC, it could make it worse. Like paranoia, people say they get paranoid on when they do THC. That's because they have paranoia going on in their system, and the THC is amplifying it. It's not creating it. For me, THC is it puts me in the present moment, and I can't remember the past, and I can't think about the future. I'm just fully engaged in the present. So it amplifies the present, and that's how I operate anyhow, is in the present, but not that I'm stoned on THC all the time. I'm a lightweight user. Alzheimer's and dementia. This picture is from the Salk Institute Research Center. Salk, if you remember, developed the polio vaccine. They're a well-respected scientific research center, and they were doing some research on cannabis. And they discovered that CBN, in conjunction with CBD, really helped with Alzheimer's and dementia. And this is the way they described it, okay? They took a picture of the mitochondria cell and blew it up. And the picture on the left and the pop-up window, that's the mitochondria portion of the cell. You can see the lines are long and kind of wavy. And then they stressed the cell. They gave it stress somehow. And those lines curled up, like giving it a perm, got all curly. In the middle picture, it's all curly. And then they gave them CBD with CBN, and those cells straightened out again. And the mitochondria relaxed and let go of the stress. So they proved that, and the Alzheimer's and dementia patients in their clinical trial got somewhat better. Not that it cured it, but it managed it. And while they were taking the cannabis, they were getting good results for the Alzheimer's. And now, John Bohan, when I met him, I sent him some gummies that we make for his wife, Zelda, because she has Alzheimer's. And the gummies that I sent him had about a third, had a lot of CBD and then 1/3 CBN and CBG. And after a week, John reported to me that it not only helped Zelda with her Alzheimer's, but it also helped her with her arterial sclerosis, and that she was getting good benefits for another condition that she was not specifically taking it for. And that's what CBD often does. It'll help 3 or 4 different things in the body. I just thought that was really interesting. I've got several different clients of my collective who've reported that they've got macular degeneration, pressure cleared up, when they were taking it for dementia, and they were seeing other medical benefits from it. So it's kind of like one medicine that does a lot of different things. So that brings me to the end of my talk here. I was going to change this word Guerneville to something else for our talk today, but I didn't get around to it. So but I was in Guerneville last week with the Prostate Awareness Foundation retreat, and I gave a talk there. And what I'm saying is that we'll give you anyone who mentions that Prostate Awareness Foundation will get 20% off their products. That's good through May 15th, but it'll probably go longer if you talk to me personally. I'm always willing to cut somebody a special deal. And if you want to order any products, I would advise contacting me directly, because I can make sure that you get in and you get what you need, and you get your discounts and all that. If you call the office, Synergy Wellness office, and you get the girls that are normally on staff, they're not going to know about the 20% discount and stuff. But that concludes my my talk. And my email address is leonard@synergycbd.com. And that should be on the slide, but it's not.
Could you give us that again?
I will open this up for questions now.
Hey, Leonard, this is John Toto speaking. Leonard, is there a phone number, like if any one of us want to speak to you? Is that available?
Yes, that is. I'll give you my office phone.
Okay.
And the number is 415-259-5859. So my office is in San Rafael, California.
Okay.
And it's not a walk-in dispensary. It's more of like Amazon.com. You order it through the website or through an email or telephone, and we'll ship it to you.
Okay.
So
I got to make sure I don't call you at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
You can call. I won't be there. I'm 81 years old, turning 82 in 2 weeks. And I don't get in till like 12 o'clock noon Pacific time. So, but you can call and leave a message. I don't care.
Right. Okay.
But I purposely did not give you my cell phone, because I don't want you calling me at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Eastern Standard Time.
Hey, I took too much THC. What do I do? If you take too much THC, take a little CBD. That was anti-psychoactive. That'll bring you down off the high.
Hey, Leonard, on your website, it gives a list of all the products that you have.
Yes, it does,
Okay.
including the suppositories.
Right. And once again, that's Leonard@CBD.com.
No, Leonard at synergycbd.com. SYNERGYCBD.com. Where do you live, John?
New York, Staten Island.
Yeah, so I'll ship to New York. I don't have a problem with that. I won't ship out of the country. I've had really bad luck with customs in other countries.
Yeah,
Not
for
like
sure.
I think, I mean, legally, CBD is still a Schedule I drug on the federal system. So
THC is.
THC and CBD, believe it or not, CBD is still illegal, even though the Farm Bill made it legal. In California, it's legal, and in 28 states. CBD is legal, but in New York, it's legal. But I'll get it to you, John. If you want it, we'll get it to you. Okay.
Good. I'll give you a call and we can discuss further. All right, buddy?
Good.
So Leonard, I have a question, Ken
Yeah.
here. To get these ratios of the proper, or the proper ratios, I should say, you grow a particular strain or what the experts call a cultivar. Is that right?
Correct.
Can you share what that strain is called, or is it something
Oh,
you?
no, yeah, I can definitely share with you. Because we're going for very specific ratios, I don't trust that it's going to grow naturally in one cultivar. So we'd grow a couple different ones and combine them together.
Okay,
So for CBD, we use a plant called ACDC,
right.
and it was developed in Israel, and I got my mind is blank. The doctor in Northern California, not Hergen rather, but anyhow, some other doctor brought it over. So ACDC, which is not the band, but it stands for alternative cannabis. So they were growing it for edibles to eat. But ACDC I found to be the most medicinal strain or cultivar. I call it strain.
Mhm.
And so we use ACDC for our CBD source. So I'll take 50% of ACDC and I'll combine it with an indica, like Purple Kush is one of my favorite indicas. So a heavy CBD, heavy indica, sleep medicine, and I'll take the THC, I'll take the whole plant, Purple Kush, and match it 50-50 with ACDC, and then I'll end up with 50% CBD, 50% THC. And then for the suppositories, I do add isolate of CBG and CBN because I don't want to change anything else. I just want to jack up that component, so it's a full spectrum product with a couple of small percentage of isolate added to it. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm saying, right?
Makes a lot of sense, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that's how we make almost all of our products. We start with a full spectrum product, and then we'll tweak it with an isolate to get it exact. Now, all of our products we send to a lab to be tested. We use Marin Analytics in Novato as our testing facility. So it's not part of us, it's external to us. They test it. So we make a big batch, we get it tested, and then when it comes back, we might have to adjust that batch if it's not exactly what we want, and then get it tested again. And then we'll make smaller, bottles of tincture or capsules or whatever we're making. So it is getting tested, so we know exactly what it is. Otherwise, it's just a good idea, but
Right.
we want to stand behind our product. So we test everything that we send out. We grow all our own plants. This is very important. We have the mother plants in my studio or my grow room, and we take little sprouts off of each plant, little clones. We clone it. So we're getting the exact DNA of the mother plant. And then we grow those clones up, and then I'll give them to a trusted farmer who will grow them outside for us, and then we'll get them back from him so that we know that that plant is grown organically. We know what the DNA of it is, and we can trust that it's healthy and medicinal plant. So we need to do that, to control. I don't know any other way to control the product. I can go out on the market, the black market, or the you know the new law legal market, and buy the plants, but I still don't know exactly what's in it. I don't know that they did it organically. I don't know that they, so the only way that I can know exactly what's in it is to make my own products, grow my own products, or me and my partners grow it, and then we make the final product from our known sources. Any other questions?
Well, I'd like to make a comment. As Leonard mentioned, he was our keynote lecturer on our spring retreat up in Guerneville at the Guerneville Lodge.
It was a fantastic time I had up there. Thank you, Ken.
It was really a great time. And I hope some of you guys can participate next year. I don't know where it will be at this point, certainly, but I wanted to say that Leonard was very generous with giving out samples. And and so I've got a testimonial. As some of you may recall, I had my knee replaced mid-November. So I'm almost 5 months post-op. And I've been using cannabis sabs that I get at the dispensary, or I have a friend that was making sabs for me. And so I have good experience with it, and I use it on my left knee, rub it in nice. So I tried Leonard's Synergy Wellness product, and I have to say I'm getting really good, probably the best pain relief. I found that most of the salves, and I don't know if any of you guys use them, they're topicals. You rub them in, you don't get high. And some of them are better than others. Some of them are fairly greasy. I don't like that. Some of them, I don't like the aroma, but the smell on this particular one, which is a 1-to-1 THC to CBD to CBG in a 1-to-3 ratio. I really like the smell of these. And I don't know how you chose it, but maybe I can read the ingredient. Concentrated CBD and THC, cannabis flowers, CBG isolate, shea butter. I don't know if a shea is a plant or what it is, but MCT oil, which is a coconut oil, a high potency coconut oil. Isn't that right, Leonard?
Yeah, liquid coconut oil, middle chain triglyceride, MCT.
Beeswax. But the scented part, I was really enthusiastic about. You're using essential oils of rose geranium. I've never heard of that being used, but it's in combination with your lemon, eucalyptus, lavender, and wild ginger. I really like the smell. It's therapeutic in itself, I think.
My wife came up with that formula, and because they all have pain relief properties. And she did it for she's a feng shui master, and she was doing some feng shui project that she developed that formula. So we tried it and we liked it. I just want to say, Ken, I don't know if you got the roller ball that I had mentioned, but there was another product that we make that's got a tincture, an alcohol tincture, and you apply it with a roller ball. It's kind of like a deodorant has a roller ball on it.
Sure.
And when going for pain, we found it to be more effective if you put the roller ball on first, let the alcohol evaporate, and then put the salve on top of it, make like a sandwich, and it drives the pain relief properties in deeper, and it lasts longer. So you get even more relief out of it when you're using both of those products.
That's a good tip. You're comparing this, the salve that you gave me compared to the other ones. I've been using salves for knee pain that wakes me up in the middle of the night often. So I keep it at my bedside, and it's enough to take the edge off and get me back to sleep. I fall back to sleep pretty easily. I notice with your product that it seems to last longer, uh,
Yeah,
which is good news, so.
that's very good news. And thank you for that unsolicited testimonial.
Right, right. So,
Was my next door neighbor, who I'm using her garden to grow cannabis, and she was telling me she has carpal tunnel in her arm, and I said, "Oh, you should try our product." And I started doing the rollerball and the salve, and I didn't even finish putting it on, and she goes, "Wow, the pain's gone already." I mean, it worked that fast. It was like within a minute, her pain was gone. So we get good results from it. I like it a lot. It works really well. We have a super salve. We have one that's twice as strong, but I think I just gave you the regular salve.
uh-huh. And what's the indication for that? Just more pain?
And we also make gummies. We make mango, elderberry, and strawberry. The strawberry ones are the strongest, but they're not THC oriented. They're really more CBD, CBN, CBG.
Now, Leonard, you guys have a CBD oil?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Now, when you take that, do you put it under your tongue and let it dissolve, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I've got actually 3 different medias. We got sesame oil, olive oil, and alcohol. The alcohol is probably the fastest acting, but I don't recommend it because I use 190 proof alcohol. It's really strong, and I don't even drink alcohol. So but the sesame oil is what seems to work the best, unless somebody's allergic to sesame seed. Sesame oil, put it under your tongue or on top of your tongue. I tell people to start off small, maybe 1 or 2 drops. You don't know how it's going to react and all of that. CBD, you don't have a bad reaction to, but with THC, you might want to. When I'm guiding people, I always say start off small and then titrate up to the point where you can feel the psychoactivity, and then back off a little bit. So you're just below the psychoactive point, and then that's the right level for you. And it might stay there for about a month, and then it might, wander a little bit. You might need a little more after a while, or if it stops try using a little less. It's a moving target, and it's a natural plant. So it's not a pharmaceutical. It doesn't always do exactly the same thing. But usually people with between 5 and 10 drops, they can find a good dose that'll work for them. A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want to get high," then I'll guide them towards maybe a 4-to-1 product, 4 parts CBD to 1 part THC. So with that, they can do maybe 10 drops before they start feeling the psychoactivity. But in my opinion, they can get the medicinal property before they get the psychoactivity. So it's possible to find an exact dose. If you count the drops of a tincture, you can vary the dose. With a capsule, it's kind of fixed how many milligrams is in there. A gummy, you can cut in half or a quarter, so you can cut it down a little bit. But with a tincture, you can actually count the drops. It might be a little hard to count the drops going under the tongue. I would say in that case, if it's really critical, put it on a spoon and then you can lick it off the spoon. It doesn't have to be under the tongue, it can be on top of the tongue, but hold it in your mouth for a couple minutes and then, swallow it afterwards.
Now, do you take that once a day, Leonard, or two or
I would
three?
do it. Okay, good question. Thank you for that. If it's a tincture, probably takes a half hour to come on. And then it's going to last maybe 6 to 8 hours. So if you're doing a tincture or an oral, uh, edibles take a little longer, like a brownie or a cookie or something like that. It might take a couple hours to come on. And that you got to be careful with because that could be even stronger. In the liver, delta 9 THC converts to hydroxy 11, which is twice as strong as delta 9 THC. So you got to be careful when you're eating edibles. You want to eat less, not more. You don't want to overdose on it. But to come back to your question, you figure about a half hour before it starts to come on, and after an hour, it's probably at its highest effect, from an hour to an hour and a half. And then from there, it's like slowly going downhill, So after 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours, it's probably about half or a quarter of the efficacy that it was. So I would say if you got a bad case, you would want to do it 3 times a day: morning, mid-afternoon, and at night when you're going to bed.
Okay.
Suppositories I do once a day. I don't want to poop it out, so I don't want to do it in the morning and then have to go and evacuate it.
Right.
So that's tinctures, 6 to 8 hours. When you inhale a vaporizer or a joint or a pipe, when you're doing inhalation, it comes on in a couple minutes, very fast acting. Goes into the lungs, and then through the lungs, it gets into your bloodstream, and it goes to your brain. And within a couple of minutes, you're fully medicated. But it only lasts for 1 to 2 hours. So it goes downhill pretty rapidly. Now, I say it only lasts, but when you're at that state where there's not much in you, if you close your eyes, meditate, and look for that feeling of the medicinal effect, you can call it up, you can recall it, you can get it back, you can get it to come back if you focus. But you have to close your eyes. When your eyes are open, your energy is going outside. When your eyes are closed, it's all going inside, so you can really monitor what's going on inside your body. I use meditative techniques for healing to help the healing process. I'm visualizing what's going on. The cancer's getting eliminated. The tumors are shrinking and dissolving, different things. So I kind of combine meditation with everything that I do. When we're making our products, we're chanting mantras and putting energy into them. And all of my employees are trained energy workers. So you're getting a quality product. And in the end product, people say, wow, this is really good. It really works. And they don't know why, but it works better than most products. It's because of the intention that we're putting into it. I am not doing this to make money. I am doing this to help people get better. So my intention is to do everything I can to help people get as well as they can and survive and thrive. And our products are very helpful for that.
Leonard, this has been so informative. I've been pretty much a lifelong user and believer in cannabis and the whole plant. And a couple of a question, especially when it comes to edibles. I don't particularly like edibles because they last so long, and I'm not sure how powerful they're going to be sometime.
Right.
That said, what's your experience with taking cannabis edibles with or without food? Or and the reason for my question is I notice sometimes I'll take cannabis maybe right after a meal or without, but if I eat 2 or 3 hours later, it seems like the high sensation comes back again, with the stimulation of food? Is that your observation or?
My observation, I don't know if it's true for everybody, but this is what I think, is that the edible, if I have food in my stomach and then I take an edible, the body is going, is this medicine? Is this food? What do I do with this? They get a little confused. The energy gets split. Part of it goes to digesting food, part of it goes to the medicine. If I'm on an empty stomach and I take an edible, then the body knows, oh, this is medicine. I'm going to do the medicinal thing. I'm going to get high or whatever. Now, if I want to get high, which occasionally I want to do, especially if I'm going to have sex, I love to be a little high when I'm having sex. I don't want to get high for 4 hours or 8 hours. I want to get high for an hour. Get altered, excuse me. I want to be altered for a half hour, an hour. So I'm going to take a vaporizer. I'm going to smoke something. And I'll have my experience for a half hour, an hour, and it's gone. If I want to sleep all night, then I want something that's going to be acting slowly over a long period of time. I'm not going to smoke or inhale something. I'm going to eat something. So we have some cookies that will digest slowly over time. Some kind of an edible or a tincture, which is really an edible of types. Capsules are same thing. It's going into your stomach, so it's kind of like an edible. When it goes in your stomach, then it goes through the liver, and it gets processed. It gets metabolized in a different way than if you're inhaling it, or when you do a topical, then it's just locally. It's not getting into your bloodstream, so it's working more local. So each one has a different reason that you would do it. But you're right, it matters. So the food thing, I would take it on an empty stomach unless taking it gives me an upset stomach or I'm having some kind of reaction and I need to have food to get rid of that other side effect, then I'll do it with food. If I'm inhaling it, then it doesn't matter if there's food in my stomach or not, because it's not going to the stomach. Does that go along with what you're saying, Ken?
It jives with what I'm saying and feeling, and I've thought for a long time that part of my successful odyssey dealing with prostate cancer has had a lot to do with my ongoing use of cannabis and the whole plant once again. And so again, thanks for your expertise and thanks for your willingness to be here for us each individually, because we all have little different concerns. Correct me if I'm wrong, Leonard, it starts with joining your collective, is that correct?
It starts with, if you go to our website, Synergy Wellness, synergycbd.com, and there is an application form, which I encourage you to fill out. And it'll tell you need a doctor's recommendation. And I'm saying if you talk to me, you don't need a doctor's recommendation. I can bypass that part of our system. But if you come into the office and you don't come through me, the girls are going to want you to have something from a doctor.
Okay.
And the doctor doesn't need to say, I think cannabis is going to help this specific condition, because they don't know enough about cannabis to know what it's going to help or not. But it's great if you have a doctor's recommendation, then we'll add that to it. So a lot of people come and join our collective and they don't want to go to a doctor. We'll put them through an online doctor that we work with. Costs $25. He interviews you online through Zoom or some kind of a video thing, and we'll give you a recommendation. Everybody gets a recommendation. Everybody can use cannabis for something. And you get, and it'll cost you $25, and then we'll give you $25 off your first product. So it's free to you, to the member. It doesn't cost them anything
Cool.
if they want to go through that process. The other way to do it is just say, Leonard's my doctor, and I'll write you a note. I'm not an MD, but I'm an herbalist. But I can get you into our system, and I can get you products with you being, I can make you a member.
Wonderful.
And we will send it to New York, and we will send it to any state, anywhere in the United States. We can send products.
Your whole product line.
The whole product line, the whole Synergy product line will go out. It'll have a Healing Essence label on it, but it'll be a Synergy wellness product.
Okay. So one little footnote